You are listening to Confessions of a Counselor podcast with Janice, mental health in bite-sized chunks. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Confessions of a Counselor. I'm your host, Janice, and in today's episode, in the final episode of our self-care season of the podcast, I thought we would just talk about kind of bringing it all together, right? So what do we need to remember when it comes to caring for ourselves? And I think that it's really important to remember that we are human, we are not perfect. And this idea of self compassion. So, in the blog this month, we were talking about self compassion. And as I was recording this episode, I was kind of thinking about self compassion and what does that mean, and how closely linked it is to the idea of self care, right? So, in order to care for myself, I need to have compassion for myself, right? I need to want to take care of myself. So, I thought in today's episode, we could talk about um, self care and self compassion. So, let's jump right in. In terms of recognizing and acknowledging um, caring for ourselves, it means that we have to prioritize ourselves. And I think one of the big things that kind of gets missed in therapy is this idea of building up our worth. And as you all know, based on what I call myself, self worth activist, I think it's really important that we have this conversation of prioritizing myself because I love myself. And not in a conflated, egotistical way, but in the fact that I think that I'm important enough to care for. I'm important enough to go to therapy for. I'm important enough in order to be the best version of myself for me, for my family. Um, w- in many ways, we need to love ourselves enough to take care of ourselves. And so I think this idea that we need to have self compassion for ourselves is kind of foundational, really, in this idea of self care. So, how I care for myself and the quality at which I care for myself is going to be determinant on how much I think I'm worthy of that care, right? So this is oftentimes why you will hear me ask, well, how would you care for someone that you loved, right? How would you care for your best friend? How would you care for a child, right? You've heard me say that several times over this podcast um, season of self-care really is what would I do if I was responsible for caring for a child? And I ask questions in this way and I kind of reframe things in that way because I think it's a lot easier to think, well, I would do all of these things if I was caring for someone else, right? And so why don't I do that for myself? So we need to build up that self compassion. We need to build up that self love and worth in order to prioritize caring for ourselves. So when we look at the idea of self care, I think that foundational piece is can I prioritize myself enough? Can I love myself enough in order to do this? And so I just want you to know that you are worth it, right? No matter what. No matter what anyone else has told you, no matter all of those negative thoughts in your head, no matter what your mental illness may be trying to convince you of, none of that is true. Right? You are worthy of being here. You are important. And I'm really glad that you're here. Even if we've never met, I think that it's really important to care for ourselves and really important to remember that you are here, you exist, and therefore you are worthy of love and you are worthy of care. So until next time, I hope that this is helpful. Take care.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Confessions of a Counselor podcast is available anywhere you like to listen to your podcasts, both on Apple and Android. New episodes are released every Friday. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to join the conversation, leave a review, or subscribe to the podcast hosted on Spotify. You can find all these details on JaniceLyons.com. Until next time, take care.